Oman is often misjudged because it shares the Arabian Peninsula with headlines about conflict and upheaval. That broad brush misses the reality on the ground. On maps, the country hugs the southeastern corner of Arabia and looks across the Arabian Sea to India and Africa. For centuries, Omani dhows sailed those waters, trading frankincense, dates, and horses along routes that connected Mesopotamia to China. Today it ranks 43rd on the 2025 Global Peace Index, with a score of 1.738, higher than some European countries and far ahead of its neighbors. So the question isn't whether Oman is safe, it's whether travelers are ready to look beyond cliches and find a place that defies them. Our journey begins in Muscat, the coastal capital where tradition and modernity share the same warm light. The Sultan Qaboos Grand Mosque welcomes us first. Completed in 2001 to commemorate the Sultan's 30-year reign, the square-plan mosque has a central dome rising 50 meters and 5 minarets representing the 5 pillars of Islam. The main minaret reaches 91.5 meters. Its main prayer hall accommodates over 6,500 worshippers, with room for 20,000 people on the site overall. Inside, travelers are stunned by a 14 tall chandelier made from about 600,000 Swarovski crystals, and a Persian carpet covering 4,343 meters woven with 1.7 billion knots. The mosque blends Islamic, Middle Eastern, and Omani styles and, unusually for the region, welcomes non-Muslims provided visitors dress modestly and move quietly. It sets the tone. Oman's greatest treasures invite curiosity rather than exclusion. Away from the prayer hall, Muscat's skyline is low and harmonious. There are no skyscrapers. Instead, you find whitewashed villas and the occasional splash of color. The Royal Opera House, finished in locally quarried stone, showcases international performances under a roof that gleams with mother-of-pearl inlay. Along the Mutra Corniche, fishermen tie their dhows beside cafes and incense stalls. This blend of theater and seafront market shows Oman's knack for preserving heritage while welcoming the outside world. Muscat's quiet confidence is a good foil to the noise and glitz of its neighbors. Now we leave the capital for the interior. 2 hours inland, Nizwa rises from a date palm oasis. In the 17th century, Imam Sultan bin Saif al-Yarubi built a drum-shaped fortress here that dominates the skyline and today ranks as Oman's most visited national monument. Its circular tower stands 30 meters high and 36 meters in diameter, with foundations sunk 30 meters deep. 24 cannon openings dot the thick walls, and the entrance is flanked by 2 cannons. Secret shafts and false doors confuse invaders, while a labyrinth of rooms and corridors, wells and a stream show how self-sufficient this citadel could be. Outside, Nizwa's souk still trades dates, silver jewelry, and the curved Khanjar dagger. Haggling here is an art form and a social ritual. Nearby Bahla was once the capital of the Banu Nebhan tribe, who prospered between the 12th and 15th centuries. Their legacy is a vast mud brick fortress rising from stone foundations. The fort's walls and towers, made from unbaked brick, are an outstanding example of pre-gunpowder defensive architecture. They enclose a settlement with a mosque, market, and homes, where pottery is still crafted by hand. A foliage irrigation system channels water through the oasis and is part of the site's heritage. Walking along the ramparts offers panoramic views of palm groves and the jagged Hajar Mountains. A reminder that in Oman, the line between settlement and wilderness is thin. We head south to Dhofar, where 4 places collectively called the Land of Frankincense trace the trade that once perfumed temples from Rome to India. The UNESCO site's components are the fortified ports of Khor Rori and Al-Balid, the caravan oasis of Shisr, and Wadi Dauka, where frankincense trees grow. These places together dramatize centuries of commerce and culture. Oman's Boswellia sacra trees exude a resin that was worth more than gold. The smoke rising from burning frankincense was thought to carry prayers to the heavens. Following this trail, you step into the world of caravanserais, sailors, and alchemists. Khor Rori, known in classical texts as Moshe Limen, sits about 40 km east of Salalah on a hill that commands a sweetwater lagoon. Massive walls with rubble cores and dressed stone faces protected this harbor. Visitors enter through 3 successive gates on a steep path flanked by towers, engineering designed to slow attackers. Al-Balid on the seafront traded with China and other far-flung places. Ming porcelain shards and Persian tiles found here testify to a time when sailors from Gujarat and Sumatra mingled with Omani traders. The town's fortunes declined after Portuguese and other European navies disrupted Indian Ocean commerce in the 15th century. We leave the coast and move inland again. The oasis of Shisr lies around 180 km north of Salalah. It supplied water and rest to caravans bringing frankincense from the Nejd to coastal ports. Today, only a few Bedouin families live near the ruins, but archaeologists continue to reveal layers of habitation beneath the sands. Nearby, Wadi Dauka remains a wild frankincense grove. The Boswellia sacra trees grow in the alluvial bed of a seasonally dry valley, surviving searing heat. Watching local harvesters climb these twisting trunks and collect resin reminds visitors that Oman's scent is a living tradition. East along the coast, the ancient city of Kalhat spreads across about 35 ha near Sur. From the 11th to 15th centuries, the city flourished as a port exporting horses, dates, incense, and pearls. Merchants from East Africa, India, China, and Southeast Asia anchored here, and travelers like Ibn Battuta praised its mosques and bustling markets. Today, its inner and outer walls, necropolises, and the domed mausoleum of Bibi Mariam hint at past splendor. Portuguese attacks in the 16th century led to Kalhat's decline, leaving behind wind-scoured ruins overlooking the sea. None of these settlements would have survived without water management. Oman's afflage irrigation systems, channels carved into rock or underground, tap springs and deliver water using gravity. UNESCO lists 5 representative afflage among the roughly 3,000 still operating. Some may date back to the 5th century AD or earlier, and archaeological evidence suggests irrigation in Oman as early as 2500 BC. These networks are communally managed. Families share water rights based on traditional schedules, and watchtowers were built to protect the canals. Sitting beside a falage and hearing the water whisper beneath a parched landscape is humbling. It's technology that fed oases long before electricity. Northwest of Nizwa, another UNESCO site preserves a cluster of prehistoric settlements and necropolises. The archaeological complex of Bat, Al-Qutm, and Al-Ain is considered one of the most complete and well-preserved ensembles of 3rd millennium BCE settlements worldwide. At Bat alone, 7 monumental stone towers have been unearthed, each a circular wall 20-25 meters across with twin rows of compartments around a central well. Archaeologists still debate their purpose, perhaps platforms for houses or temples. Nearby necropolises feature beehive tombs from the early Hafid period, and more elaborate multi-chambered tombs from later centuries. The site underscores Oman's long history of copper trade and complex social organization. Now we veer east into the Sharqiya, the sands of Wahiba. This desert stretches 180 km north to south and 80 km across, covering about 12,500 kilometers. Named after the Bani Wahiba tribe, its high dunes meet the Indian Ocean in a stunning cascade of sand. In 1986, scientists from the Royal Geographical Society found 16,000 invertebrate species, about 200 other animal species and 150 plant species here. A reminder that even sand seas teem with life. Spend a night in a Bedouin camp and you'll share coffee and stories under a sky so clear that the Milky Way seems close enough to touch. Heading back to the mountains, the Hajar Range runs like a spine through northern Oman. Its highest peak is Jebel Shams, the Mountain of the Sun, rising to about 3,009 min. The name comes from the way it catches the first light at daybreak. The climate here is surprisingly mild. Summer temperatures hover around 20 degrees, while winter nights drop below freezing. A trail known as W4 leads hikers to the accessible south summit, offering views into the Al-Nakhr Canyon, nicknamed the Grand Canyon of Arabia. Standing at the rim, you see strata folded like pages of a book, and villages clinging to terraces far below. It's an antidote to the idea that Arabia is all sand. We head even farther south to Dhofar again, where the Indian Ocean monsoon, known locally as the Kharif, transforms the landscape. From June to September, mists roll in and turn the hills around Salalah into a lush scene. Waterfalls pour over cliffs, and locals picnic in cloud-draped banana groves. Salalah itself feels more like East Africa than Arabia. You hear Swahili words in the market and smell coconuts and cardamom on the breeze. In autumn, the frankincense trees return to life, and the harvest begins anew. This seasonal reversal challenges preconceived ideas about desert climates and reveals Oman's environmental diversity. Oman's coastline stretches for more than 3,000 kilometers, from the Musandam fjords in the north to the Yemeni border in the south. Remote bays offer pristine beaches, where green turtles crawl ashore to lay eggs. At the Ras Al Jinns Turtle Reserve near Sur, local guides lead visitors quietly to nesting sites so the animals are undisturbed. In the fishing port of Sur, artisans still build wooden dhow boats using hand tools and centuries-old techniques. Watching a hull take shape by the tide gives a tangible sense of continuity between the sailors of old and the captains of modern container ships. Oman's deserts are punctuated by wadis, valleys that fill with water after rain. Wadi Bani Khalid, Wadi Shab, and Wadi Tiwi each hide turquoise pools beneath date palms and towering cliffs. Reaching them often involves hiking through canyons, wading through streams, and swimming through caves to hidden waterfalls. These emerald ribbons of life sustain villages and date plantations, and they're weekend playgrounds for locals. Even hardened skeptics find themselves grinning when they cannonball into a wadi pool after a dusty hike. One of the delights of traveling in Oman is the genuine welcome. Hospitality here is formalized in etiquette. Visitors are offered kahwa, lightly roasted coffee flavored with cardamom, and sweet dates. In the Mutra and Nizwa souks, you can wander through alleys piled with spices, silver bangles, copper coffee pots, and khanjars. Bargaining is expected, but done with smiles and time. You're as likely to be invited to sit for a cup of tea as to make a sale. Dress codes emphasize respect. Men wear dishdashas and women abayas. And travelers who reciprocate earn admiration. Omani cuisine reflects centuries of trade. Shua, a celebratory dish, involves marinating lamb or goat in date syrup and spices, wrapping it in banana leaves and cooking it in an underground oven for a day. Majbuz pairs spiced rice with chicken or camel. Seafood versions are common along the coast. On street corners you might find vendors ladling out mishkak, skewers of marinated meat grilled over charcoal, or serving piping hot sambusas influenced by Indian samosas. Finish with sticky halwa, flavored with rose water and saffron. Eating with your fingers is customary, and the conversation flows as freely as the cardamom-scented coffee. Oman has resisted the rush to plastic and still values handmade goods. In Bahla, craftsmen shape clay into water jars and incense burners. In Sur, shipwrights build dhows without blueprints, relying on muscle memory and community knowledge. Silversmiths in Nizwa hammer filigree bangles, and women in Jebel Akhdar weave palm frond baskets and goat hair rugs. The curved Khanjar dagger, worn at weddings and state ceremonies, symbolizes honor and responsibility. Buying from these artisans keeps skills alive and connects visitors to a living tradition. The cultural calendar is dotted with celebrations. The National Day Parade on 18th of November features military bands and school children dancing in traditional dress. In Salalah, the Kharif Festival showcases Dhofari music, camel races and nightly fireworks. In Muscat, the annual Festival of Music and Arts brings orchestras and theater companies from around the world. Even small villages host date harvest festivals, where poems are recited and drums echo into the night. These gatherings remind travelers that heritage isn't static. It's performed, sung, and shared. Many first-time visitors ask whether Oman is safe. The statistics speak for themselves. Oman's position in the top third of the Global Peace Index and low crime rates make it one of the safest countries to travel in the Middle East. Women travelers frequently comment on feeling comfortable exploring alone. Political stability stems from a government that values gradual change and consensus. None of this is an invitation to be complacent. Sensible precautions apply everywhere. But it underlines how unfounded many fears are. In Oman, the greatest danger may be overeating at a family feast. Oman has invested heavily in roads, airports, and public services without sacrificing its heritage. Modern highways connect Muscat to Salalah and beyond, yet traffic slows for camels crossing and Bedouins driving goats. The ports of Dukm and Sohar handle shipping along routes that once hosted dhow convoys. Renewable energy projects in the desert harness sun and wind, while desalination plants provide clean water. The balance between development and preservation isn't always perfect, but Oman's choice to limit high-rise towers and mass tourism has preserved its character. Environmental stewardship is enshrined in Omani law. Marine reserves, such as the Damaniyat Islands off Muscat, protect coral reefs and nesting seabirds. In the central desert, the Arabian Oryx Sanctuary helped bring this elegant antelope back from extinction. Turtle reserves on the coast regulate visitor numbers and prohibit artificial light during nesting seasons. In the mountains, communities maintain foliage irrigation systems and terrace farming, which reduce erosion and conserve water. These efforts demonstrate that conservation and tourism can coexist. For thrill seekers, Oman offers canyoning in Wadi Bani Khalid, caving in the limestone chambers of Majlis al-Jinn, and diving with whale sharks in the Damaniyat Marine Reserve. Off-roaders tackle the empty quarter along newly opened desert highways, and hikers explore abandoned villages accessible only on foot. Those seeking serenity can camp on remote beaches, listening to waves break under a canopy of stars. Oman rewards curiosity with experiences that feel both ancient and immediate. What stays with most travelers isn't a single fort or mountain but the people. Fishermen who invite you to tea, Bedouins who teach you to tie a turban, children who practice English with shy smiles. Oman's history of trade created a society comfortable with outsiders and proud of its identity. It is traditional and values modesty and respect, yet forward-looking and questioning the assumption that modernity must erase the past. Elders recite poems, women prepare halwa over glowing coals, youngsters share new music while wearing the old clothes. In Oman, modernity and tradition coexist without shouting at each other. UNESCO notes that all 4 frankincense sites retain their outstanding universal value, and that the property's features and functions remain intact. To ensure integrity, the government has fenced the sites, marked buffer zones, and prevented encroachment. Authenticity is unquestioned, because 3 components are uninhabited archaeological sites, and the 4th is a natural desert landscape. Royal Decrees No. 680 and No. 16/2001 protect the sites and their buffer zones. Visitor paths are laid on geotextiles to protect surfaces, and sacrificial stone layers shield the walls. Interpretation centers at Al Balid and Khor Rori educate over 150,000 visitors a year. This proactive stewardship counters the notion that the region neglects its past. Excavations at Bat, Al-Kutum and Al-Ain have revealed more than tombs and towers. Archaeologists have located ancient quarries where limestone blocks were extracted, and workshops where masons shaped them. These sites show every step of the construction process, from the quarry to the finished building. Research programs led by the Omani Ministry of Heritage and Culture, the University of Pennsylvania Museum, the Tokyo Institute of Technology, the German Mining Museum, and the University of Tübingen have documented tombs, towers, settlements, and even Neolithic flint mines. Plans for interpretation centers and strict access controls are part of a management strategy that balances scientific investigation with tourism. These efforts remind us that heritage is also about knowledge, not just spectacle. Oman's dominant branch of Islam is Ibadi, a sect that predates both Sunni and Shia divisions. Ibadi teachings emphasize consensus, modesty, and tolerance. This outlook has helped Omani society avoid sectarian conflict and allowed other faiths space to practice quietly. In Muscat, you can find Hindu temples and churches standing unnoticed beside mosques. Religious education in schools stresses ethics over dogma, and the state funds the restoration of mosques and shrines while allowing private worship. Travelers who engage with locals often find faith discussed as a personal guide rather than a political identity. For centuries, Omani sailors commanded a maritime network linking Arabia with East Africa and the Indian subcontinent. In the 18th and 19th centuries, the sultans of Oman ruled islands like Zanzibar and controlled ports from Gwadar in present-day Pakistan to the Swahili coast. Cloves, ivory, and slaves were shipped in Omani dhows. Dates, horses, and frankincense went the other way. Today, that empire is gone, but the legacy lives on in architecture, cuisine, and family ties. Modern Oman invests its wealth from oil and gas into infrastructure, education, and healthcare, while promoting diversification in tourism, fishing, and logistics. The transition from empire to nation-state has been remarkably orderly, guided by leaders who prefer incremental change to upheaval. Plan your trip with the seasons. October to April brings mild weather to the north. June to September is best for the misty Kharif in Dhofar. Dress conservatively. Ask permission before photographing people and leave a little time for tea and conversation. It's considered rude to rush. Four-wheel drive vehicles are essential for mountain and desert trips, and a local guide unlocks stories that never make it into guidebooks. As the closing music builds, remember that the real Oman isn't the caricature in headlines. It's forts with secret wells, wadis lined with emerald pools, mountains that touch the clouds, and above all, people who welcome strangers as honored guests. Let curiosity lead you past the negative narratives and into a landscape where history and hospitality are inseparable.